Welcome to Dance to Heal. I'm your host, Jenny C. Cohen. Join me as I share stories of how dance and movement can bring healing in a way that is safe and tailored to your life. I'm a cancer survivor, mother of two, and an award-winning performer who found that movement was vital to my recovery. I created Dance to Heal Wellness and also authored the best-selling book, Outside in Recovery, Dancing My Way Back to Myself After Breast Cancer. I will bring new techniques to help you on your dance journey and healing path. Are you ready to move? Dance to Heal starts now. Kimly Hoang-Nakata is a learning success coach with a mission to empower students to unlock their full potential. She's a two-time award-winning author, credentialed teacher, devoted wife and mother of 3 children. She is also the proud founder of Achieve Education, a premier and personalized coaching service for K through 12 students. And without further ado, I am so excited to have Kimly here. Welcome, Kimly.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
So, because I'm also a mom of 2 kids that I had to homeschool into college, and being an occupational therapist, I have learned a lot about my childhood and how important it was to provide certain things that as immigrants I wasn't allowed to have because my parents themselves were just trying to survive. I would love your story about why you are so passionate about this topic.
Yes, first of all, I'm so honored to be here today with you, and I'm so excited to share because I believe everyone has a story and everything has a story of its own. And my journey and immigrated to the United States at the age of 9. And you can imagine, starting life in a new country with no English, like basically start from ground zero again. And I struggle really, really um, much about adjusting to the culture, to the language. I just felt total lack of confidence in who I am, the language barrier. I came home crying almost every day to my dad, and my poor dad, just like you said, like any immigrant parents, they worked really hard every day just basically to survive. And so I felt really bad being the oldest sister and not being able to help my parents much other than trying to study really hard and try to help me holding the dictionary, trying to, look up every single word on my spelling list. So it was a total nightmare to learn. But I embrace experience, turn struggles into a motivation. And so that sparked it, like really sparked my interest in how to empower myself and really study hard and become successful. And so my journey started from struggles to success. So basically, that's how I started, becoming an educator, and my journey really reflected on my own experiences.
I love that. I love that. And I want to introduce a term to our audience. I learned this word in therapy actually about oftentimes children of immigrants are parentified. We are expected to be little adults. You know, I
Yeah.
had to take care of my brother. I was 18 months old when he was born. And my childhood, which I didn't really have one much of it before, anyways, it literally disappeared when he showed up because I was expected to raise my brother. Like I'm his older sister. A lot of cultures do that. It's not just Asian, right,
Yes.
Kimberly?
I could totally
And
relate. Yes.
right, yeah.
Mhm.
And I love what you do, though. You remind us children need to be children. Tell us what are some really important things children need to have?
Um, I mean, I basically I grew up in like a post-war time in Vietnam, so I always wish to have a little doll and time with my parents, basically, but just life wasn't really all that not in our favor at the time. So I had to invent my own toys, pretend that I have my little doll using two sticks, try to put them together, put leaves over the sticks, pretend that's my doll, and just rocking it back and forth in a little, um, you know, boat that I pretended to be a boat. So basically, my dream, just to have the time to imagine, have that magical, you know, piece. And I think that's part of my childhood. What I dreamed to do to do is being my own little world, my imagination. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love children's book. And we can talk more about that later.
Yes, yes. Let's make sure we put a pin on that because we do want to come back to that.
Yes.
I love the reminder to the audience. Children need to play.
Yes.
Children need time with their parents. Yes, we do have a large amount of the world right now where we need to work, right? We
Mm.
have to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And we understand that. That's not what we're saying that you shouldn't work to pay the bills for your family.
Mhm.
At the same time, for me growing up, my father's only day off was on Monday when they would close the restaurant. And instead of us spending family time to have conversations about maybe his childhood, right?
Mhm.
Because my dad was escaping trauma all his life of being extremely poor and the eldest son, so he had to raise everybody and bring everybody up.
Mhm.
He would use his days off to put us in the car and just drive for hours as far away as possible and then drive back, and those were his days off. Right?
Wow.
And there's something to be said about the the play. You wanted a doll.
Hmm.
I think I got the only stuffed animal my parents were willing to buy. So my brother was out of luck. He didn't get the kitten stuffed animal. He
Mm.
made a dog out of a pillow when we first came to the States. And I was the oldest sister, and that was the first time ever I got a gift and my brother didn't. Because when I was raised, having a son was praised and valued over having a daughter.
Hmm.
And so my birth wasn't even recognized the first month until,
Hmm.
and then they begrudgingly recognized that my parents had had their firstborn child. And then when
Hmm.
my brother came, it was completely the opposite, obviously, because he was the son, first grandson, blah, blah, blah. And it was just really interesting. I love what you said, though. Children need to play, they need time with their families. And oftentimes, we have social media now. There are videos of really cool parents.
Yes.
I love that. However, what how would you suggest a parent even know where to start for their school age child? Because that's one of your specialty areas where you work with, right?
Yeah.
And we could keep it small and then we can open it up to a larger circle. If you're first generation immigrant here with a child, a young child school age,
Mhm.
what do they really need to make sure they're providing for their kids?
Well, we all understand that beside paying for the bills, working hard, I do believe in giving time for your children. The time that you give is so valuable because kids are not going to be kids forever. So I truly believe making time for them is very important. And just share something very simple, maybe baking a cake, or if you're not into baking, you can go outside and just show them something do a nature walk. Basically spend quality time with your children. It's really building that close relationship with them and makes them feel loved, make them feel validated. I think that's very important besides providing them the financial support. And of course, we want the best for our children, but sometimes we don't have the luxury, don't have the time. And so I completely get that. I mean, because it's really hard, but we should all try to really give time to our children because it means the whole world to them.
It really does. It really does. The I know time is oftentimes money. However,
Mm.
a child will blossom with a scheduled weekly family time, even if it's just 2 hours once a
Yes.
week, right?
Mhm.
Where you can have your parents' undivided attention.
Yes.
And, I grew up with the mom spending time with you by standing
Mhm.
over you with a ruler to make sure you do your schoolwork. That was not quality time for me, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was one of those latchkey kids back in the
Mhm.
day in the 70s, early 80s, right? So my
Mhm.
parents worked, they eventually opened up their own restaurant, and I would have a key tied around my neck to a string, and I have to
Mhm.
let myself in the house,
Oh.
right? That's my childhood. And every time my mom came home to bring food or dinner, like dinner pretty much, for my brother and I, before dinner hour started, which is busy time at the restaurant,
Mm.
she would just have for a brief few minutes where she would just nag us. And that was her version because, and I love my mother. She worked from this history of being the fourth daughter. And then after her came five sons and the disappointment when she was born, right?
Wow.
And she
Yes.
battled that all her life. And of course, she wanted better for me. And that was how she thought she was showing it.
Hmm.
And now, of course, we know that does not make for a healthy mental fitness of a person,
True.
right?
Yes.
We just want time with our parents where we're really fully seen for who we are.
Yes.
I do love that reminder.
Hmm.
Let's
Yes.
make sure we talk about the children's books.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Tell us, what about children's books, Kimly?
Yes. One of my favorite things, um, I cannot express enough about children's book. In fact, when I first came to this country, I was trying to learn English, and I say children's book is not just for children. I think it's for all ages. And so I went to the library and I was um, I guess in luck to found one bilingual children's book that was written in English and Vietnamese. And that was a game changer for me and my journey in learning English as a second language and maintaining my home language. So I just read that over and over again. I mean, when you found a book that you feel inspired, you it's just everything. And to me, life at the time as a newcomer, I didn't have a lot of friends. The kids at school didn't want to play with me because they think, no, she doesn't speak English. It's not fun. So books became my best friends. And so every day I went to the library and, check out stacks of books. I mean, I went to the counter and my stack of books were like taller than me. And the librarian was like, hello, who's that? Behind that stack of books. And then they usually tease me about it, but I became very fond of books and they welcome me to the library every day, and so that's how I became interested in children's book. And I promised myself that someday when I learn English well enough, maintain Vietnamese, I will write a children's book. And look at this, what, 30 years, 33 years later, I made that dream came true. And when we met at the International Impact Book Awards, my first bilingual children's book got the recognition. And so I was
Yes,
so
it did.
honored.
It did.
Yeah.
Audience members, if you're watching this on YouTube and or listening on any of the podcast platforms, please help me give her a round of applause.
Thank
I'm
you.
doing a circle right now if you're listening with my hands as I'm applauding her. There is something to be said about elevating voices of Asian Americans. We make up for actually a very small percentage here in this country, here in the US. I hope this podcast goes global and people hear from all around the world where we're actually in the majority.
Mm,
However, where we're situated now,
mm.
you're beaming in from California and I'm coming in from Utah. I
Yes.
think I believe the last time I looked at stats, because I do look at that often,
Hmm.
Asians make up point 0.2 or 0.2% of this population here in the
Mm,
whole continent of the United States.
mm,
I think even including, well, no, not so much. Canada has a higher population,
mm,
not so much in the US. So it's more the
mm.
US, not the continent of North America. It's more just the whole American United States. We make about 2.2%.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we
Wow.
come here, we if we're not yelling for ourselves, we really
Hmm.
do get lost in the sauce,
Yes, definitely.
right? We were
Yeah.
having a conversation about because now I'm 55, and my role models back then were the brunette on Charlie's Angels, because at least she had dark hair. She was not Asian, but
Mhm.
she had dark hair compared to Farrah Fawcett, who was the epitome of
Yeah.
beauty when I was a young baby, a
Oh.
young child, between, let's say I came to the States when I was 5.
Mm.
So up until, who was our first Asian American back then? I think it was the gold medalist who did skating. And then after her, Lucy Liu came
Mm. Mhm.
a little bit more obviously, and then now we started to see more and more Asian actresses, comedians,
Mhm.
teachers, authors like yourself and me.
Yeah. I think our kids are so diverse now. We need more role models. I mean, I appreciate everyone that I encounter in my life, but I feel like we need more role models for our kids to be inspired and be motivated.
Yes, yes, certainly there are a lot of them.
Mhm.
It's how do we get our them in front of our kids,
Yes.
right? There is an amazing Asian American who was on target to be an astronaut,
Oh,
and
yes.
she, right, and
Mhm.
then she had to recover from, trigger warning audience, some SA in college, and then she went to the Senate and had some laws passed,
Mm.
to protect women against SA situations. And
Mhm.
now she's back on track to going into space.
Wow, that's amazing.
We'll make sure we get her in front of your audience of children.
Yes. For sure. Yes.
So, what is the best way if someone would love to get in touch with you, Kimly, or work with you in the future? Please first tell us what you do.
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that question. Well, I've been in the classroom, both public and private school, for 14 years. And I love being in the classroom, meeting students, learning from them and teaching them. So it's been an amazing experience. But after I became a mom of 3 children, I felt my time just not on my side. Try to juggle full-time work and um, picking up and dropping off kids and be able to make it to my class on time. I felt really like racing the clock every morning. And
Hmm.
so then at the thought of me, maybe I should utilize my skill and experience in education. So that's when Achieve Education got started. And Achieve Education is a coaching service that I'm currently working, the founder of Achieve Education, and it's to serve K-12 students, really empowering them to believe in themselves and believe in their ability to learn. And we provide academic support, we provide social emotional learning, basically all the coaching that's one-on-one or small groups really help to um, make students feel successful as a whole. And we, together with my husband, who's a pediatrician, we truly believe in education and health. So because, we all want kids to learn math, will learn all the content of the subject, but if they're not feeling well or they're not emotionally ready, then I think having them learn math is really hard. So it's like, in fact, I have kids coming in saying, teacher, I don't feel good, I'm hungry, or I'm stressed. Then it's hard to deliver a math lesson. So that's why he and I, we together we come up with the holistic framework for successful learning. And recently, I just published the Student Success Notebook. Inside, it has the holistic framework for successful learning. And, so we really we want to share that to students and parents to make sure we hit all these important elements to make sure we ensure our child is successfully learning because we say you go learn math or running after school for this class, this program, but if they're not feeling good inside, it's really hard for them. So we want to make sure we understand our children inside out. So that's what Achieve Education is about, is we really serve our students knowing them as an individual. And we really coach them to reach their potential.
Oh, I
And
love this. Oh, this is amazing. Where
thank
else could you get someone who is versed in helping you provide everything for your child from not just academics, but this social, emotional, developmental approach, and you're backed by a pediatrician? I mean, what?
you.
This is what I wish I had had when my kids were little. I have 25-year-old twins now
Mhm.
finishing up college, and I had to do all that by myself without a doctor husband.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I had an occupational therapy degree because that's what I did. So I just OT'd my children to death, right? And it turned out later in years, both of them are neurodiverse. So my son is like me, we're undiagnosed ADHD, right? And a lot of that has they have handed down generational trauma from me that I slowly resolved, and now they're addressed. I made sure they got like a therapist, and we've been taking care of that. And then
Mhm.
my daughter is more on the spectrum, like my husband. Neither one of them have been formally diagnosed, quote unquote.
Mhm.
However, once has an OT, and I put on my therapist OT head
Mhm.
and thought, well, what do we need? And I realized, wow, all the things that I did with my husband, I started doing with my daughter during the homeschooling aspect of it. And she's
Mhm.
been thriving.
Nice.
And not everyone has an OT degree, y'all. Like,
Yeah.
or, and here yet you have Kimly and her husband, Dr. Nakata, yes?
Yes.
And they can provide things for you that is really not accessible prior to this. I've never heard of any other program like this. Where can they find you?
Yes, so we are on our website at achieve.education, and you can email us support at achieve.education.
Beautiful. So Chief as in CHIEF.
Yes. No,
Beautiful.
achieve. Achieve is
Oh,
a
achieve.
yes, achieve like to achieve something, that's achieve.
Okay,
Like
so it
you
is
want you.
support at achieve. ACHIEVE
Yes,
dot
dot education.
education. Perfect. And I like that.
Thank.
That's a very easy. Let's make sure we have
Mhm.
that. In the
Yes.
episode descriptors, I'll put that
Mhm.
down.
Yes.
Ooh, are you flashing
So
something at us?
yeah, we have our brochure here, so we can provide the link so you can find more information.
Perfect.
And
Perfect. I love that. And so currently, right now, you're serving families of K through 12 grade children, correct?
yes, and also my husband also wants to share his journey and success strategies for those who want to become doctors. So he also is gonna coach college students or aspiring doctors who want to know the secrets of how to get into medical school and how to survive medical school and all that. So I'm serving the kids population and he's helping the students who want to learn to become a doctor.
What? What?
So
I can't
we
believe I this is a nice curveball. So, audience, if your child has any interest in the medical field, this is perfect for them to begin working with Kimley and her husband, and then you go on to the application process and
Mhm.
you have a doctor who's willing to mentor you. And if you have Kimley already in your corner,
Mhm.
sometimes, right, parents don't understand how important it is
Mhm.
to have the services
Yes.
that you both provide. It is definitely a team approach. I
Mhm.
had to do everything, and I'm telling you, it burned you out. So it's
Yeah.
much better to bring in professionals who already know the rules,
Yeah.
and then how do we follow them to achieve success for our children? That's really it. Life is different now.
Mhm.
Audience
Yeah.
members, we're post Panini. Are you listening? It's post the lockdown. I call it the panini because it's so controversial.
Mhm.
The reality is, many, many parents were thrown a curveball with the education for their children.
Mhm.
Life is not the same anymore, and I really do urge you. I'm so glad you're here listening to this episode. The reason why you're here listening now is because you need to book a call with Kimley at their website, which is, oh, you can email, right? It was email?
Yes. You can email at support at achieve.education.
Beautiful. I love it. And then don't forget, you can also go to danceandheal.com and access my dance class, which also has the myofascial release stretches included in that. You want to do both. You
Yes.
can never have enough ways to release tension and bad memories in your body, okay? And then on top of that, if you already have this magnificent duo, and here's another thing that I noticed too, as an occupational therapist, having worked in rehabilitation settings, our clients did the best when we had a team that spoke to each other. So for you to work with Kimly and her husband, they're married. You can't get more connected as a team than that. So they, right, they're not, you have literally a husband and wife team in your corner for your child.
Mm. And we specialize in learning how to learn. We give you value. So it's like an investment in your kid's future. So the value saves you time and money down the road to really know the success strategies to guide your students along the way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I am going to also remind the audience, if you've not looked at the five love languages of children, I highly recommend you look that up. It was key to me uh, starting down the journey of homeschooling
Mhm.
because some of us are still stuck in that rut, depending on where you're located in the world, you
Mhm.
know, and what your own personal views are keeping safe with the pandemic.
Mhm.
And also just the common cold, folks. It's becoming much more powerful now. And so, what's going to happen is if you check out the five love languages, it equips you to feel like you're closer to your children, you're helping them feel fulfilled. What else would you add to that, Kimberly, for parents who um, may be struggling right now and they may not be able to immediately reach out to you and your husband? What are
Mhm.
some other things that parents can do to make sure they're maximizing how to care for their kids during these times?
Oh yes, and by the way, the five love language of children, it's just amazing. It's like it opens a new perspective of how we help our children. And so, yes, I can agree more with that. But at the same time, you can just be available to your children, as I mentioned before, giving time. Um, it is very powerful. So sometimes it's just a little get together, and if you have multiple children, make sure you carve out that one-on-one time. Because I also have a 13-year-old daughter and um, my 5-year-old and my 4-year-old son. So I want to make sure I have time for all three children, but it's much more powerful when you have one-on-one time for each kid, especially my teenager who really needs you in a different way now. For the little ones, they need more physical, like, diaper and food and, things like that. But the teenager, you know, teens need more emotional support, I think, more so than ever. And so having time, and for us, I like to take her out for boba,
Mm.
boba milk tea, something that she likes, but in moderation, I can't just consume that a lot. But what I meant is just
The
one-on-one,
time.
just something to, get her out and enjoy one-on-one time with mom or dad, or sometimes me and my husband would go together with her, but sometimes she just want either mommy or either daddy. So because they have different things to share with each parent.
Uh-huh.
I highly recommend carving one-on-one time with your child.
I love that. I never had one-on-one time with either one of my parents growing up, and I would have felt so different about myself if I had even been empowered to choose or have that opportunity.
Mhm.
I adore this suggestion. I
Mhm.
really do love it. I think what happens is people forget how important it is to be seen for just yourself. I
Mhm.
have fraternal twins and people want to lump them together. They look completely different.
Mhm.
Completely different as babies. They people would just hear twins and all of a sudden they couldn't tell them apart, you know? And
Yes.
and even now in their mid-20s, I
Mhm.
do carve out time one-on-one with them so they can have that time because I was super
Yes.
important for them to see themselves as individuals, you
Yes.
know? And so audience members, I'm going to strongly suggest you get the danceandheal.com class for you parents and then give me a call and
Mhm.
then put your kids in the wonderfully gifted hands of Kimly and her husband, and then you will be an unstoppable team. Kimberly, thank you so much for coming. We're gonna have to have you come back. I think we have a lot more to talk about on this topic.
Thanks so much for having me.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Dance to Heal with Jenny C. Cohen. Come back next time to hear stories of recovery through movement and learn more ways that you can move your body. To work with me and continue your journey, visit outsideinrecovery.com. Are you ready to move?